Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at Dorico and we're going to talk about custom lines. So custom lines, there's a lot we can do with that. I was using some custom lines in my Great Lake Concerto. There's a moment in this piece here where I notate what they're supposed to do, and then I have these black lines here that are extending, and they basically say, keep doing what you're doing, you're playing out of time from everyone else, but keep doing that, eventually the conductor will bring you back in. So this was a way for me to do some textual writing and not have to notate things out, as a lot of improvisation in there for the players within the section. Now this was really easy to do in Dorico, and I don't know if you're coming from Finale, but custom lines kind of sucked there. Let's take a look at what's already integrated into Dorico with custom lines. So this is the Dorico tutorial shorts document. If you've seen those tutorials, this is where I keep all of that nonsense. But we're going to do something new here. And right now I'm going to recommend you open the zone on the right with the lines. So this is pretty basic, right? We could insert lines if we have stuff we want to do. For example, we'll just grab this measure right here in the piano, and let's say we want a line above it. Check out this thing up here. And this talks about where that line starts and where that line ends. So if we wanted a line to go in between these two notes, we want note to note. So let's put an arrow here. And you can see that's going in between the lines. Now, if we wanted in another spot, perhaps just the entire measure here, we could click this and it attaches it to the measure. Or if we want it over, let's say, just a selection, a part within, like the amount of time, the easiest way to see it is let's click this. But if you wanted it attached to a rhythmic position, we'll switch it over here. And now let's say it's going to go over the quarter notes here. And that's it. So this is just existing over that. And if we change our rhythmic grid resolution to, let's say, 16th notes, we select this and go shift left, right? We're moving it within 16th notes. So that's all pretty simple and especially helpful if you're going between a grand staff, right? So let's enter in a note here. We'll just do a half note at E. And then we want to select it all the way down to here. So we just select those notes. And then let's go from note to note. And we'll do this squiggly. And that's going on there. What does that mean? I don't know. But maybe that's what you want in your music for something. But let's say that you did have a special meaning for that squiggly. And it meant something like breathing. Like you wanted the breath to, maybe it was breathing, like the vibrato, and you wanted that to speed up. Maybe you want to add the word vibrato in there. So let's see how we could do that. So in this, we could edit in this area below and add some text. And let's say vibrato. And that's already in the center. Terrific. And it's kind of overlapping with our lines. So you can see that area right underneath. That's the continuation of our squiggles back here. You can also change the position. Perhaps you want it above, right? Inside, whatever. All of this is available to edit in the lower zone here. You'd also be able to edit this if you go over here on the right-hand side and click Edit. And here we have our wavy lines, and you could do all of the editing here. But let's say you want something really special with a vibrato. Let's take a look at a way you could add some notes to this symbol. So we're going to edit a line, and let's take our, let's do our wavy line here. Why not? Now, I recommend going ahead and duplicating this over here. And this is going to be, let's call this our vibrato line. And I want to add something to this. So let's go ahead and change the center annotation. And what we want, we cannot select anything because we don't have anything made yet. So let's go to the line annotation editor. And what I want to add is a music symbol. So let's go down here to music symbol, and let's just go ahead and make something. So let's go ahead and edit symbol, and let's find something we want to add. Perhaps we want them to go between flat and sharp. Let's just go ahead and add that in. See what that looks like. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. The line's going to be on the other sides of it. Now I set this at 3/4. This is something you'll kind of have to play with depending on what line you have and what your symbols look like. Because if you were to lower these, you can see it changes the distance between the line and the symbol. So let's keep this at 3/4 for now. Hit OK. And then we're going to turn on center annotation. And let's select this. Now I guess we forgot to give it a name. Go back in here. Go back to music symbols. Yeah, we don't have a name here. Let's call this accidentals. Okay. So it shows the name here, accidentals. And that's just going to exist here in the center of our line. So now if we hit OK, we have over here this new line. So let's get rid of this guy. Let's select our notes again and insert this one. And there you go. Very simple. You've created a new line in between these two notes. Perhaps we want it just over the entire bar. Works just the same, and it'll keep that symbol inside. And just pausing here real quick, I want to give a shout out to the members of the channel who support this channel and make sure it happens. You can join them by clicking the links below to support the channel, join a membership, get some videos early, and support everything that we do here. And don't be shy, be sure to comment below, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Now let's look at another example. Perhaps you want a line in the middle of the staff. So let's put something together similar to what I did in the concerto. There's going to be a few notes, and then we're going to tell our player to repeat them kind of ad lib. So let's put some notes in. We're going to go down here, and I want to put in some 30-second notes, and we'll just go E, F, G, F. There we go. So they're going to have this concept here. Let's give it a slur, and then they're going to repeat this on and on. So if I select this measure and I give it a line, that line's up here. And perhaps you're used to a different software where you would manually move this down. I get a lot of messages in the comments where folks are like, I can't click and move these things. What is going on? And of course, if you went to engrave mode, you would be able to do that. But that's not what we want. We want this to just live in the center. So we're going to create a new type of line. So let's get rid of this. And let's go ahead and hit the edit on our horizontal bars. And we're going to create a new one. And let's base this off of a solid line. Just a solid line. We don't want any end markers. We don't want any of these hooks over here. We just want it to be a solid line. So I'm going to duplicate that. And I'm going to call this, instead of solid line 2, we're going to call this ad lib. Cool. Now this is a really thin line. So let's go ahead here to body style and let's pick thicker. And now let's see what this looks like. So we have this line up here at the top. Let's select this measure right here. We click this. It's still on top. So if we go back to editing, where we want to put this placement, we want that inside the staff. But also notice that it's not taking up that much space. As you can see here, it is in between our bar lines, but it's really not covering these two spaces on the staff, and I really want it to. So let's go ahead and edit again, and we're going to change that, select our line, whatever it was called, ad lib, and line body editor. So there are all sorts of different types of lines that we could play with. We just want a generic. And there's one called thicker, but let's duplicate that. And let's make that thickest. So let's try something. And these sizes are going to depend on what your staff size is. And you would change that in your layout options. So if you plan on doing special lines like this, perhaps you want to set this and then do all of your engraving or your entry, whatever. And maybe you find that the page size needs to be a little bit smaller or the staff size needs to be a little bit larger. Whatever it is, you'll have to adjust that manually to your piece. It's very specific to the page size and everything else in between. So for now, let's set this to 2 And actually, let's go up to 2.5. And you can see it's getting thicker up here. And we want that a solid line, but we could, of course, have a double line, a dash line, whatever. So let's go ahead and have that. It's inside the staff. And let's see what that looks like for now. So nothing's happened. Why not? Let's go to edit. And we actually have to change from here, thicker to thickest. So just make sure you're following all those steps. Otherwise, you might feel like you're doing work and nothing's happening. So now we can see that's really thick. So perhaps that's too thick for this situation. I don't know. Maybe it's exactly what you want. We're going to leave it for now for this example, but check out what we can do with this line. We can just extend it because it is currently connected to the bars. So I'm just going to change our resolution grid here to quarter notes. I have this selected, Shift plus Alt, and I'm going to move around, and we can just keep adding this as far as we want. Perhaps we want to add a little bit of text to this. Let's edit, and then let's add something that's going to say ad lib. So let's try seeing what text looks like. We go to hyphenated text here, and let's say ad lib. And now this, we could say that it starts so that it's at the beginning. And right here you can see it says ad lib, and then this continues on. And if you're stretching across a long period of time, it does make sense to put it at the beginning. Otherwise, people would have to look pretty far forward to see what does this black bar mean. But another cool way we could show this is with symbols. So let's edit here. And we're going to go to center annotation. And let's go again to the line annotation editor. Let's go to music symbols. And let's create a new one. So I want to add some notes without note heads. So let's go ahead and select this, the range, and let's check out beamed groups of notes. Now we could do this right here where we have the extended note head, and then let's say we add another 30-second note, and then okay. Now you can see our distance here on the right, it's pretty close. So that's why we're going to add this to 3/4 to give ourselves a little bit more space. And then before we move on, let's name this 30-second. That way we just know we can find it. Let's hit OK. Center annotation, 30-second, and you can see it's added that in. It looks like I may want a little bit more space on the left, so let's go back in there. And again, this is just like that process of a little bit of trial and error until you see what fits best for your score. So now we have some space in there, and we're going to do something interesting. We're going to do repeat. Let's do accelerating. So it's going to make the distance of this smaller and smaller and smaller as we go. And the vertical position, we have it centered, but we could also put it above the lines. I think for this instance, it makes sense to be centered. So now you can see what this looks like. It starts with it over here, and then they get closer and closer and closer. This would be more sensible to see in an area where it's a lot of notes on one straight line. Let's take a look. Let's just take this. We're going to select up here, add some measures, blah, blah, blah. And now let's select this whole range here, and then we'll add in that. And you can see they get closer and closer as they go. Now, sometimes this black bar is covering up a rest, but sometimes it's not. So if we want to get rid of those rests, all we have to do is select the range of where those rests are, head up to edit, and then remove rests. So this may not be exactly what you want to do in Dorico, but you can see the scope of what Dorico is capable of. There's a lot you can do, whether you want the accelerating or not, or you just want a symbol in there. It's amazing that you can create this. You don't have to create it multiple times, and it can be tied to your bar lines or to your notes. So you don't have to worry about it floating off and moving away. It can stay right there, centered in the staff. Let's look at another way this can be useful. And just like before, let's go to our horn part here. Let's click in. We're going to add, let's say, an E over here. Select this note, select this note. We're going to change our lines to attach to note. And now you can even see that custom line that we made, it'll happen in between there. Maybe we would want this at a custom scale. So we would maybe want to put this a little bit smaller so it makes a little bit more sense for our situation. And then we'll go ahead and select this, remove rests. And there we go, we can see that. So there's a lot of different things that you could do with any custom lines. Let's take a look at a vertical situation. So over here, let's add in some notes. We're going to turn chords on, enter in, and we'll just do a C major. And then down here, let's go ahead and put in a B, because we're getting spicy. And then a G. Why not? All right, cool. So just like before, we could select this area. We could input any of these already created lines. And just like before, we could customize these lines. Let's go ahead and edit here. And let's create something new. And this is going to be, let's imagine that you've got a synthesizer with polytonal aftertouch, which means you could hit a chord on the keys and you can wiggle those keys around and get some additional effect. Maybe you have distortion tied to that. Maybe you have reverb. I don't know. You could have anything. It's polytonal aftertouch. But let's try it. Let's see what we could do. So let's call this polytonal aftertouch. That's probably more than one word, but we're going to keep it this way. All right, so let's select our line. I want to go with a wiggly. And I want this narrow to here to even wider. And of course, I'm editing here, but I think we'll probably just keep that. So let's go down and let's find that wavy body, narrow to wide. And this is what it's going to look like for us. Perhaps we want it a little bit thicker. Why not? Let's go ahead and edit that. Narrow to wide. Let's duplicate this. This is number 2. We're going to call this thicker. And check out what we can add. So let's add a couple different moves. So let's go like this one. And then gets a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit wilder. You know, you could really create anything you want. Then we'll select these and we'll just get rid of them. So this is what our new wild line is going to look like. Let's hit OK. And now up here in body style, let's go ahead and find what we want, which our new one is called wavy body, narrow wide, thicker. So let's go ahead and put that in. Get rid of this old one here. And here we select our notes of our chord. And then right here, we just enter that in. And we've got some weird ass squiggly line. Now, again, I'm not exactly sure what you would use these for, but it's pretty cool that you could do it. If you're doing graphic notation, Dorico is for you. This stuff is so much simpler, and especially because it, again, is attaching to a measure or a note, so much simpler than my experience with Finale, at least. So what if we want to add a custom endpoint like these have? So let's select our line here, our polytonal aftertouch line body editor, because over here we're not able to add a start cap, end cap, but we can do it this way. Let's go to our repeatable symbols, thicker, and what we're going to do is find an arrow that we like. Let's do this weird one here, and then we're going to add to end. Now, if we were to just add it, it would be a repeatable symbol, but we want it just to be having something at the very end. So let's hit OK here, and you can see it's added this line to the end. Let's hit OK. Let's enter this in. We'll select our chord here and add that in, and you can see it's added our specialty end cap line there. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with custom lines in Dorico, especially horizontally. So hopefully this is helpful for you in, I don't know, doing something special in your music. If you have other ideas of things you can do with lines, throw those in the comments below. Be sure to ask your questions about Dorico. And if you learned something, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, And stay tuned for all the other stuff that we're going to talk about here on the channel. I'll see you next time.